A truck loaded with gas exploded and set off a massive fireball that burned homes and warehouses in Nairobi Embakasi area, killing at least 3 people and injuring more than 270. The fire broke out on Thursday night in the Embakasi neighborhood. Government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura said on X, with many residents inside by the time the blaze reached their homes. Unfortunately, they couldn't save as many people, and I feel so bad. You guys saw this video this morning, like all of us, right? Yeah, and I remember when I first woke up to it, I was like, is this real? Because the video that we shared on nation.africa, there it is. And I couldn't imagine the person who recorded the video. First of all, shout out to the cameraman, because I can imagine the bravery it took to still stand there and take, videos with that explosion. Cindy.
Yes.
You know how many people live in this estate?
Yes, I live in Embakasi. We didn't hear it because it was a bit far from where we stay. But my mom actually is adjacent. If you see the flats, that's Nyayo Estate. So my mom actually lives next to Nyayo Estate. And the blast was so bad, it shook the houses. Now, where my mom stays in Nyayo Estate is quite a distance, let's say 2-3 kilometers. You can imagine the impact and the sheer force that was there surrounding the estates, where that area is called Mradi. So we passed through this morning because our son goes to school somewhere near there. And let me tell you, near Mradi, where the place was, the gas cylinder filling plant, there are many shanty houses, and all the roofs and the structures were blown apart. I'm just happy that, first of all, condolences to everybody who passed on. I'm happy that the casualty was not as high as it should be. I understand a lot of the casualties was like smoke inhalation and that sort of stuff. But let me tell you what irks me. I was privy to some court documents of people who sued the companies that had set up that gas filling place. Do you know they got away with fines of as low as 50,000 shillings for that?
Yep.
50,000 shillings. I think the highest was 200K. And you know, if you have that kind of business, you have that kind of liquid cash. Yeah. So it's really heartbreaking. However, there's a twist to the story. Embakasi is technically not a residential place. It's an industrial place. That's why we have Kabansora and Tononoka around the area. So it's all about urban planning, and it's a case of which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Price of corruption is death. That's maybe the small thing that I will say.
Yeah.
And this is not about who came first or who did what. Because if at the point of saying that the plant should not have been there, if it is the people that needed to move, then the people should have moved.
But you know,
so either way, whether it's the company that needs to move or the people that needs to move,
they should not. Why were people there in the first place?
You should not have.
Why were people there in the first place? If they were not meant to be there.
Exactly.
And if you guys remember, before we started encroaching in some of these areas, of course, because of the overpopulation, there were factories and all types of plants on the outskirts. Yeah. The outskirts, meaning Mombasa Road at the time.
Yeah.
So now when you're driving towards Katani, you're going towards Machakos, people live on all these places right next to a factory.
Yes. And you
know who was not supposed to be there? Because if you're saying the factories were there and then people decided to construct estates around it.
No. This particular plant came after the people. And I think one of the issues that Nairobi has had, and I think someone should still talk about it, is we have to cater for our ballooning population.
Yeah.
That this plan that Nairobi has now was made, like there was a time we were talking about drainage. The drainage system was constructed when Nairobi was envisioned to have between 300,000 and 500,000 people. Yeah. Now we are approaching 6 million, I think. We are in almost 6 million. We are approaching our 10 million. So that means with the population increase, even areas that were previously allocated for other things are going to start having human population. Because also you have to think about it, people live where the companies are because that's where they work. So they need to live around where they work.
Yeah.
And that's how towns develop anyway. But what I'm saying is, there are things like petrol stations, airports, gas filling stations. This is akin to the thing that happened in Lebanon. and it killed a lot of people in Lebanon. There was an explosion of where the gas reserve was, and the whole town, the whole city was under rubble.
Yes.
It's the same. We are lucky that it didn't get to that, and I wish quick recovery to those who are still recovering. But this is what I'm saying, that every time you ignore a pole that is being constructed next to a house, an electricity pole, you are courting death. Every time someone is building a house in a riparian land, and then you say, watu tu wajenge juu sasa watu lazima waishi. We are courting death, and it's always there is someone who took money. Ndio hiyo kitu kubaliwe kwa.
Well, first of all, this happens a lot on Kiambu Road. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. Actually, because you drive past certain areas and you're like, I am pretty sure a building is not supposed to be constructed on this piece of land. There is another place, and guys know this is after Tindigwa, right?
Yes, the swampy area.
Right before. How did they start constructing? But it's okay.
It's rehabilitated.
Macho, do you also credit graft? Do you blame graft? Do you say that corruption has a huge role to play in what it is that we're seeing happening in different parts of the country?
Well, yes, in all honesty, I agree with parts of what Kwach is saying and what Cindy is saying as well. Definitely, kuna pesa iliingia kwa mfuko ya mtu mahali, and that is why the situation is as it is right now. Either ni pesa mwenye alijenga nyumba za watu wa kuishi, ama ni mwenye aliweka hiyo the plant. But let's also not forget, Kwach, that this plant ilikuwa imenyimwa certification like 3 times last year.
Yep.
They had requested and applied and applied and
applied. It was even discussed in Parliament.
Certification was not being issued. Meaning, clearly it is the plant that was not meant to be there. At least they were not meant to be operating because there is a problem. There is a problem. And apparently some of the residents had been complaining of smelling gas in the air, which is probably one of the reasons why the explosion was so massive, because kuna gas ilikuwa tayari kwa hewa, inangojea tu kuspakiwa hivi kidogo. So yes, there is money that was taken, and it is unfortunate when I hear a government spokesman telling Kenyans to, I mean, ni sawa, wa Kenya tuko na utu, tutachanga, lakini ukisikia serikali inasema changieni hawa watu at least wapate rent ya miezi 2, na hii serikali
never sounds right.
Then the memo ended with Mimi ni Mzalendo J Wewe. Okay, I know that's a slogan that probably goes in every memo, but you're just like, it's too soon, not now. Guy,
you know what, guys? If we are going to be talking about politicians and what they have said, so there was a protest. Listen, see, you started it. Let's open the can of worms. There was a protest that took place on Saturday. Okay?
Yes.
Right?
Femicide.
And then we had 2 female politicians who during this week aired their views, and it really had me wondering, who do they represent? Who do they represent? You know how many times we've all taken L's in our lives? Kwach, you as a creator, you as an actor, and everything else that you do, and Cindy and Mato. And you know what you do? You say, you know what, I messed up here. This wasn't right. I shouldn't have done this. So if we're going to talk about what they have said, I feel like women, we need 3 hours of a show.